The grand June estate was silent, except for the rhythmic tapping of raindrop against the floor-to-ceiling windows. A luxurious chandelier cast golden hues across the lavish living room where Vine sat curled up on the couch, her fingers absent-mindedly flipping through a medical journal. The warmth of the fireplace flickered against her skin, but her mind was elsewhere, on the man she called her husband, Jungkook, cold, ruthless, mysterious. Her husband of 6 months, yet he remained an enigma to her. They were not strangers, but they were not close either. Their conversations were limited to formalities, their interactions careful and distant. She wasn't afraid of him, okay, maybe a little, but she mostly feared making a wrong move, stepping into a tragedy he wasn't ready to open. Unlike him, she was a gynecologist, a profession that was close to emotions. She wore her emotions on her sleeve. She loved easily, cared deeply, and felt too much. And Jungkook was the complete opposite. Her thoughts were interrupted when the door burst open. Vine, I have a very serious question. Vine looked up from her journal, raising an eyebrow at the overly dramatic man standing before her. Taeyong, Jungkook's cousin. His relationship with Vine was totally different. Like they were actually close friends, not Jungkook. If it's about your imaginary illness again, I'm ignoring you, she said while Taeyong sighed, clutching his chest like she had just offended him. You warned me, but no, this is more important. He dramatically plopped on the couch beside her, wiggling his brows, while Vine looked at him confusedly. Between Jungkook and me, who do you think is more attractive? He asked mid Vine choke on her tea, coughing violently. Of all the things he could have asked, what kind of question is that? She looked away in nervousness while Taeyong grinned mischievously. A valid one. I mean, I know I am devastatingly handsome, but Jungkook has that whole dark, brooding, dangerous aura going on. So if you had to choose before he could finish, the double door cracked open and Jungkook walked in. Jungkook dressed in a fitted black shirt, sleeves rolled up, his sharp gaze flickered between them. He had clearly overheard the conversation. Vine's heart jumped to her throat. What's going on? His voice cold and deep, but Taeyong the maniac smirked. Oh, nothing, just having a fun conversation about looks. He replied while Jungkook's expression remained unreadable, but Vine could see the way his jaw tensed slightly. And he stopped right in front of them, but far from the couch, while Taeyong turned to Vine expectantly, with a smirk, signaling her to answer him. Vine swallowed nervously, but she didn't let her anxiety to show. I mean, Jungkook has that intimidatingly handsome thing going on, and you have that playful kid thing. She smiled awkwardly while Taeyong gasped dramatically. Did you just compare me with a kid? He asked in disbelief, while Jungkook, however, had a smug smirk tugging at his lips. Intimidatingly handsome, he repeated that mid and felt her face heat up. I was just being polite, she said slowly as Jungkook hummed, clearly entertained, before walking past them. For the record, I'm offended. I'm never letting you leave this down, he said, after turning to Vine, his hands on his waist with a pout, while Vine ground, burying her face in her hands as she felt embarrassed. The next day at evening, Vine had just finished a long shift at the hospital when she stepped outside, exhausted but content. It had been a fulfilling day. She had no idea she was about to get the shock of her life. Standing by a sleek black car, leaning casually against the door, was Jungkook, her husband, her cold Mafia husband, waiting for her. Vine blinked, wondering if she was hallucinating from footage. Jungkook never picked her up ever. She always had a driver. So why was he here now? And for her surprise, there was no guards of him blocking ways. They were waiting a distance from the hospital entrance. She approached Jungkook courteously. You came to pick me up? She asked in a low, soft tone, but she was so surprised while Jungkook looked at her, his face unreadable, as always. Of course, he came to pick me up, or why he would be here waiting outside. What a lame question, Ryan. Bravo. You just embarrassed yourself again, she thought while internally crying. Get in, he simply said while Van is still processing. She slid into the passenger seat. The moment the door closed, silence filled the space. She stole a glance at him as he started the car. Why are you here? She internally rolled her eyes at herself. Oh, great. Again, a stupid question, she thought. But she asked anyways, as her curiosity gets the best of her. I had nothing important in the office. Thought I will pick you up, he replied, looking straight to the road while Van frowned. That didn't sound like him. Anne decided to not ask any further questions as she thought it will piss him, and then silence stretched between them. It was a little awkward, but not suffocating. She wasn't used to spending this much time alone with him, but she felt good and tried to keep herself from smiling widely. How was your day? He asked out of nowhere. That made Ryan blink at him in surprise. He never asked about her day. It was good, busy. I had an emergency case. A pregnant woman got into an accident, but we managed to save her. She replied as Jungkook nodded, listening her attentively, but his focus was on road. And guess what? She delivered triplets. She said in growing excitement, and for the first time her face lit up with joy, her exhaustion forgotten. She launched into the story, telling him how tense it had been, how she had never been part of a case where she both saved a mother and delivered triplets, while Jungkook observed her quietly. She looked happy. Was this your first time seeing triplets? He asked, and Van nodded. I have seen them before, but never in a case like this. It was feeling stressful, but in the end, it was beautiful. The babies were cute. She said, a genuine, soft smile playing on her lips, while Jungkook's grip on the wheel tightened slightly. Her enthusiasm was rare in front of him. Treat me to a meal then. He suddenly asked. There was no playfulness in his voice, but the way he spoke it startled her. Huh? She turned to him, not believing on her ears, and her heart skipped a beat when Jungkook looked at her, a small smirk visible on his lips. You should cook for me tonight. Why's heart skipped a bit again? He never asked for things like this. I will definitely cook for you, she said, a small hesitant shy smile tugged at her lips. It was a small move, but he made it. A small step towards a great progress. That night after dinner, Vian found herself drawn to the garden. The rain was falling heavily, but instead of seeking shelter, she stepped into it. Closing her eyes, she let the cold droplets kiss her skin. The rain poured heavily, drumming against the marble floor of the grand June estate. The sky was dark, illuminated only by occasional lightning that flashed across the clouds. The cold breeze sent shivers down Vian's spine, but she didn't care. She stood in the rain, her arms stretched out, letting the droplet drench her. It was liberating, just her and the storm washing away the unspoken emotions lingering in her heart as she trailed slightly. The feeling of freedom, of being alive, filled her chest. She didn't hear the door open. She didn't notice the sharp gaze burning into her as she was lost in enjoying the moment until she felt a presence behind her. You will catch a cold. His deep voice cut through the sound of the storm while Vine turned slowly, her breath hitching as she saw him standing at the threshold of the garden. His white shirt was already soaked from the rain, clinging to his bold chest, making his tattoos more visible beneath the wet fabric. Strands of his dark hair stuck to his forehead, droplets rolling down his sharp jaw. Her heart pounded. He looked breathtaking, dangerous, beautiful. I like the rain, she said, her voice soft, mixing with the sound of pouring while Jungkook took a step forward. His usual cold, unreadable expression was nowhere to be found. Instead, there was something else, something intense burning in his dark eyes. Then dance with me. He extended his hand while Vine's lips parted, slightly in shock at his sudden straight command or wish, whatever it is, but it was beautiful. It will be romantic and perfect for the weather. You want to dance? Yes, he replied. There was no hesitation in his voice, while she swallowed, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached for his hand. The moment their skin touched, a shiver ran down her spine, not from the cold, but from the way his warmth seeped into her. His grip was firm yet gentle. He pulled her closer, one arm wrapping around her waist, the other holding her hand. She placed her free hand on his shoulder, feeling the hard muscles beneath the wet fabric. And then they moved. There was no music, only the sound of the rain, their breathing, and the faint thunder rumbling in the distance. But it didn't matter. The rhythm of their hearts set the pace as they swayed, their bodies pressed together, so but warm. Jungkook's finger traced slowly burning pattern on her lower back. His touch was hesitant yet possessive. Van felt her body inched with every brush of his fingertips, every movement that raised. Jungkook, she called out, but he didn't answer. Instead, his hold on her tightened, his nose brushed against her temple, his warm breath fanning against her damp skin. I should have done this sooner, he murmured, made Van's heart clench. Why didn't you then? She asked as Jungkook exhaled heavily, his forehead pressing against hers. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of ruining this, afraid of scaring you away, afraid that if I let myself get close, I will not be able to stop, he said as Vine's finger curled against his shirt. I was never scared of you, Jungkook. I was scared you didn't want me. She confessed that made him freeze. Jungkook pulled back slightly just enough to look into her eyes. His dark gaze held something raw, something fragile and desperate. Did you really think that? Vine nodded slowly and Jungkook cursed under his breath before cupping her face with both hands, his thumbs brushing against her wet cheeks. His voice was hoarse, filled with emotions he could no longer contain. I wanted you from the moment I saw you. I wanted you so much it scared me. Every time I saw you smile, every time you talk, every time you look at me, I wanted to hold you, touch you, make you mine in every way possible. Vine's breath hitched as he leaned in. Tell me you want this too. Tell me I am not alone in this, he asked, and Vine didn't hesitate. You are not alone. I have wanted you just as much, she admitted, and that was all it took. Joe crushed his lips against her. It wasn't soft, it wasn't careful, it was desperate, unspoken word pouring into the way he kissed her. The rain poured harder, but neither of them cared. Their world had narrowed down to just the two of them drowning in each other. Let's go inside, he said as they broke the kiss, and Vine shivered not from the cold but from the way his voice dropped lower, filled with an intensity that sent heat pulling inside her stomach. Take me, Jungkook. She met his gaze, her breathing uneven while his eyes darkened with desire. And that night the rain witnessed the love they had been too afraid to claim. The morning sun filtered through the heavy curtains, casting a soft glow over the room. The air was thick with the scent of rain and something else, something intoxicating and warm. Vian sprawled beneath the silk sheets, her body feeling yet satisfied. A slow realization washed over her as memories from last night came rushing back. The rain, the dance, Jungkook's lips, his touch, the way he whispered her name like it was his favorite prey. Her cheeks flushed as she turned slightly, only to freeze when she saw him. Jungkook was laying beside her, his bare chest raising and falling steadily. The morning light made him look softer, almost peaceful, completely different from the dangerous Mafia king the world feared. He started to peek from beneath the covers, a stark contrast to the way his hand rested near her as if he had fallen asleep while still reaching for her. Vine bit her lip. What now? Should she move, stay still, wake him up? Her internal debate was cut short when Jungkook shifted, his arm lazily wrapping over her waist, pulling her against his bump. Her breath stopped when Jungkook ground lowly, moving his face into the crook of her neck, his deep morning voice making her toes curl. Too early. Stay. He said and Vine stiffened. Was he awake or talking in his sleep? Jungkook. She slowly called out his name and Jungkook hummed, eyes still closed. His grip on her waist tightened slightly as he nuzzled closer. You smell good, he murmured. What? She internally screamed, her face turned beet red. Thanks. She awkwardly patted his back. Jungkook finally cracked one eye open, his gaze looking onto her face, a slow smirk tugged at his lips. You are blushing, he teased, a mischievous glint in his eyes. No, I am not. She denied and looked away as Jungkook chuckled. His voice still rough from sleep. He propped himself up on one elbow, watching her with amusement. You are. He teased again in one ground. She hid her face behind the sheets. Are you hiding from me now? Yes, let me disappear in peace. Not happening. Before she could react, Jungkook tugged the covers down just enough to reveal her flustered face. His eyes darkened slightly as he took in the marks on her skin, the ones he had left mine. What? Mine's breath caught in her throat while Jungkook traced a finger over the faint mark on her collarbone. His gaze locked onto hers. I said you were mine last night wasn't just a moment, you know that, right? Mine swallowed, her heart racing. I know. Good. A slow, satisfied smirk tugged at his lips. Because I am not letting you go. Vi's heart melted, but before she could respond, her stomach betrayed her by letting out a very loud growl. Silence, then Jungkook blinked before bursting into laughter. I want to die, she thought. Oh my god. She grabbed a pillow and smacked him with it. But that only made him laugh harder. So that's what I do to you, huh? Work you up so much you wake up starving. Jungkook, shut up. She whined, while Jungkook grinned, rolling out of the bed, still smirking. Alright, Mrs. June, let's get your weight before you faint. Vian huffed, but couldn't stop the small smile forming on her lips. What do you think? Should we also try for triplets? Three little you and me at one time and family complete, he said after he took her in his embrace and Wan looked at him with wide eyes while Jungkook ran, taking her downstairs to feed her grueling stomach. Last night changed everything, and for once she wasn't afraid of what came next.